By the fourth quadrant of the story, we are fully invested. We're hanging on the edge of our seats, hoping for the best, but fearing for the worst. It is a grand collision of avatar and antagonist. Done well, it will leave viewers or readers breathless and maybe in tears. Done poorly, it will be a disappointment, leading to poor reviews. I'm Jule Kucera, creator and founder of StoryJoules. I help writers tell powerful stories. For example, Annie Hutt, a novelist, said, "I look at StoryJoules constantly. It really is brilliant." The fourth quadrant is the grand finale, and it should feel grand, even if it's a smaller story. For example, Remarkably Bright Creatures. We rooted for Marcellus, and he's an octopus. You want to write a story that has us rooting for your avatar too. And if you find yourself stuck in Quadrant 4, go back to Quadrant 1, because there's something you didn't set up right, because Quadrant 4 is the payoff of everything that got started with Quadrant 1. Typically, this is where I offer a reminder to download the StoryJoules Handbook, but I've got something special coming up, and I'll tell you about that at the end. Now let's get into Quadrant 4. As always, the quadrant is set up by the ending of the quadrant before it. Where we last left off with Gladiator, at the end of Quadrant 3, Maximus was re-entering the arena, this time wounded, this time with his enemy. He is alone, even though he is next to Commodus, and there will be people surrounding him. In terms of fighting this battle, he'll be fighting Commodus all by himself. There are no other gladiators, there are no other soldiers. It is just Maximus versus Commodus. It will become Maximus's ultimate test. This return change, this end of Quadrant 3, is the pivot point from Quadrant 3 to Quadrant 4. With the mindset-shattering midpoint, the pivot point between Quadrant 2 and 3, that pivoted on the internal dimension of stasis and change. This one pivots on the external dimension of order and chaos. Now that we've been reminded of how Quadrant 3 set up Quadrant 4, let's move fully into Quadrant 4, with Maximus wounded and dying, preparing to fight Commodus. Maximus has difficulty standing. He has trouble even bending over to pick his sword up off the ground. But he will fight. He will fulfill his duty to Marcus Aurelius, maybe. He will kill Commodus, maybe. We don't know yet. We have to see. That's why we're excited. The general who became a slave, the slave who became a gladiator, the gladiator who defied an emperor, now stands in the arena. Will he die to be with his family? Will he kill Commodus and avenge their deaths? Will he fulfill the wishes of Marcus Aurelius? We don't know. Maximus is near death and has visions of the door to his farm in the afterlife, and it would be so easy for him to drop his sword and just go. It would be so easy to succumb to death because he's so close, he's been stabbed. But Maximus chooses not to do that. He fights to stay alive, he rallies, he and Commodus battle. Maximus loses his sword, so does Commodus, but Commodus pulls out a hidden dagger. Maximus grabs Commodus's hand and twists the dagger to Commodus's throat and kills him. The emperor who snuck a dagger into the arena is killed by his own duplicity. Maximus has been victorious. He's avenged the death of his wife and son, but the effort has taken his last strength, and he's ready to fall. Quintus calls his name, and before he allows himself to fall and go through that door to join his family, he directs that his men be freed, Senator Gracchus be reinstated, and Rome be returned to the people according to the dying wishes of the true Emperor of Rome, Marcus Aurelius. With that, Maximus collapses, Lucilla rushes to his side, and as he lays dying, she says to him, "Go to them." And when he has done so, Lucilla closes his eyes and says, "You are home." We see that strength and honor, that was Maximus's rallying cry in Quadrant 1 as he's leading the soldiers into battle. Strength and honor are not dependent on an army, but the individual, to fight for what they believe, to fight against what the original screenwriter David Franzioni called the impossible machine of a large, unjust government. Now let's analyze the fourth quadrant of Gladiator using StoryJoules. The first segment is Plan B, Change Me. At the beginning of Quadrant 3, it was Plan A, Change You. It was all external. But now, Plan B, Change Me. The avatar comes in changed. They're going to be different and do different. And in this case, Maximus will succeed or fall on his own. Even though he has trouble standing, he fights. We don't know how it's going to go, but we can see that he's going to meet the test. Then the dig down deeper. This is a mighty clash between the avatar and the antagonist, and here between Maximus and Commodus. If the avatar prevails, if Maximus wins, it's a prescriptive story that tells us how to live. If the antagonist prevails, it's a cautionary tale that tells us don't be like this. For the avatar to prevail, it's going to take everything they've got. Although Maximus sees the door to his farm in the afterlife, it takes everything he's got not to go through it. He chooses not to go through it. This is a prescriptive story, and Maximus is victorious. Yes, killing Commodus, the unjust emperor, is a victory, but the bigger victory is not succumbing at that point, after his own personal mission has been accomplished, but staying alive to finish his work. Even though we're talking about a battle to the death, a story doesn't need to have death to have a successful dig down deeper. Think of smaller stories where the avatar is victorious. For example, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. Many memoirs, Wild by Cheryl Strayed, Educated by Tara Westover, even my own memoir. They're all examples of somebody who overcame an ultimate test. In the final segment, New World, there is a new world. In a prescriptive story, it's a better world than there was before. In a cautionary tale, it's way worse. Either way, the audience savors the catharsis of the moment. Usually this segment of the story is quicker, especially in an action story, but don't make it too quick. Don't deprive your audience of the pleasure of the catharsis. After Maximus gives his final orders to free my men, reinstate Gracchus, return Rome to the people, he collapses. Lucilla rushes to his side. He's dying. She says, go to them. She closes his eyes, says, you are home. Even though Maximus has died, which we could think is sad, the evil emperor has been slain, which would be happy, and he's gone to be with the people he loves, the people he's been trying to be with for the whole movie. He told Marcus Aurelius he wouldn't stay and be the protectorate of Rome. He wanted to go home. And now he finally gets to go home. And that's the catharsis we feel. All of that. All of he did. Willing to die and getting what he most wanted. In the external dimension of story and chaos, Maximus has delivered a new world order to the world of the Roman Empire. He's also changed externally. He's left his physical body and he's become spirit and joined his family in the afterlife. His character arc was different than many character arcs. Maximus was great at the beginning. He's now legendary. He died, but he became a legend because he was willing to die for honor, for what he believed to be right. He was an example. We're still talking about this story. To fight alone as one human being against the impossible machine. And in this case, the impossible machine was the unjust Roman Empire under the evil Commodus, the murderer. I hope these reminders of external and internal dimensions are helpful. They remind me that my characters aren't chess pieces that I'm moving around on the story. There is continual pressure from the outside world that's pressing on my avatar to provoke internal change. And that's what causes them to act and react. Now let's move on to the questions for your story. What is the dig down deeper of my work in progress? How does the dig down deeper provide the ultimate test of my avatar? If you have a dig down deeper that's not an ultimate test, you need to make it harder. It's got to be awful. How does the new world look different from the old world? We should see a change. How do we see that the avatar has changed? Again, this is for a prescriptive story. We'll see a positive change. And for a cautionary tale, they won't have changed. They'll be worse than they ever have been, and their world will be worse than it's ever been. With this, we've gone all the way around the StoryJoules model. It looks all neat and tidy, but it's not that tidy because it's a framework, not a formula. In the next video, I want to talk about two things specifically. One, who is responsible for each of those jewels? I don't mean who to write it, that's us, the writer, but what character is responsible for each one, and why this pie plate of 8 equal slices, which you want when you're having pizza with your friends, but here it's misleading. Yep, I'll talk about that next time. As always, if you have questions or thoughts, please put them in the comments so I can respond. This is usually where I refer to the StoryJoules Handbook, but I have something special coming up. I'm doing a free 1-hour webinar next week that's designed to support you in 2 ways. 1, with your story, and 2, with you as a storyteller. If you're curious to know more, there's a link in the description. If you can't make the webinar, there's a replay. Thank you for being here. See you next time. Tally ho.